Okay, let's take a look at the week 3 homework for the second quarter. We're looking at rational numbers. Now, the three forms of quotient, we're still kind of working on it here. I think I might try something a little different as far as teaching it. So when we have the fraction 3/8, where 3 is divided by 8, we could write it another way and still come up with the same answers here. So 3 is going to go inside division, and then 8 is going to go outside for long division. So that's where 8 is moving up over here. And so we could write this as 3 is divided by 8. And then we could also move 8 over here to the right side, and we can write the expression as 3 divided by 8. So that's one form of division. Here's another form of division. And then here, fraction form also is another way to write division. So all of them are three different forms, three different ways to write an expression as a quotient. So if we write three forms of the quotient of 12 divided by 5, well, we start with 12. 12 is going to go inside division, and then 12 is also being divided by 5. So 12 is divided by 5, and then in fraction form, 12 is going to go over 5, and then in long division form, 12 is being divided by 5. So we have 12 goes inside, and then we have 12 fifths in fraction form, and then we also have 12 divided by 5 in expression or sentence form. We're going to try to use that going forward as far as three different forms, three different ways to write quotient or represent a quotient. Simplify the following expression. Simplify also means evaluate, and because there's multiplying in the middle, means we're going to multiply. So first we need to regroup, and we have one whole number out here. So we're going to multiply 2 times 1 is 2, and then we're going to add that into the numerator. So that's going to be 3 over 2 multiplied by 4 times 3 is 12, and then 12 plus 3 is going to be 15. And it stays over the same denominator of 4. So that's step one, just regrouping. So we need to get some improper fractions. We have a whole number on the outside, we need to get it back into the fraction. So now we have 3 halves times 15. We are not going to use keep, change, flip. That's only for division. This is multiplication, so we're good. So numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 3 times 15 is going to be 45. 2 times 4 is 8. And so this is an improper fraction, and we started talking about this in class. There is an imposter in the numerator. It's improper. The whole number is the imposter. So we want to figure out how many 8s can we get out of 45. So we could do 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. 48 is too much, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8 times 5 is 40. Then we subtract to see what's left over, and 45 minus 40 is going to be 5, and that still goes over 8. So after we regroup, multiply, and then we simplify by dividing to see how many of the denominator will divide into the numerator. So we have a fraction and we have a decimal here. So Chris is purchasing 4 1/4 pounds of deli ham that costs $2.80 a pound. How much change should Chris receive if he gives the cashier 2 $10 bills? 2 times 10 is 20. So we have 4 1/4, and so we need to find the total amount, and anytime we see of, that means multiply 4 1/2 of 2.8. So we have 4 point something. 1/4 is equal to 25 hundredths, and then we're multiplying by $2.80. Okay, now I'm going to rewrite it over here just so we have a little more space to multiply it, but then also, technically, you don't really need to put the 0 in there because it's just going to add another place value. But you know what, let's just leave it in there. Okay, so 0 times 5, so this is going to be 0, 0, 0 all the way across. Placeholder, placeholder. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. And then 8 times 4 is 32, 33, 34. We're done multiplying the 8, so we're going to cross out there, and we already crossed out the first spot. So now we've got 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then 2 times 4 is going to be 8. 0, 0, 0, 9, and then 11. So that's I probably should have wrote a little smaller up there. So our numbers is 1, 1, 9, 0, 0, 0. Now we count up our decimal place values. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have $11.90. We have $20. So we line up our whole numbers. $20 minus $11, and then we're going to put in a decimal place value here so then we can subtract our decimals. We don't have enough to subtract here, we're okay. So we're only going to borrow here. So 0, borrowing 10 from next door, and then borrowing 10 from next door, we're going to have 1, 9, 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 1 is 8. 1 minus 1 is 0. So the question is, how much change should he get back? So $11.90 is the cost. And then if we forget to borrow, we're going to end up with that answer. But as long as we borrow correctly, then we have $8.10 left over. So for the second one here, a pair of headphones is discounted 15%. Which answers are equivalent to 15%? As soon as we see percent, we know that that number is a representative. It's out of 100, 15 out of 100. So this is 5 out of 100. We don't just put a 1 over here. All right, and then 15 over 10, it's missing a 0. So we know it's not that. And then this one is going to be 15 out of 1, 2, 3 decimal place values, 15 thousandths. So we know it's not that. So 15 out of 100, if we divide by a factor of 5, or actually we can compare this. So 3/20 times 5 is 15, and 20 times 5 is 100. So 3/20 is equal to 15 out of 100, or 15%. So 20%. So we can actually use the chart down here, and this is actually a fraction. So 20 out of 100 is equal to, or 20 out of 30 is equal to 100 out of what? So if we use this comparison here, how many 20s do you have in 100? You have 5, so 5 times 20 is 100. So 30 times 5 is going to give us 150 pages. So we can just use equivalent fractions, 20 out of 30, and compare that to 100 out of 150. And same thing here, the percents. So which value is equivalent to 60%? So we're going to put 60% goes over 100. And then looking at your answers, we have 3 decimal place values, 1, 0, 0, 0. And then here we don't have 60, we're missing a 0. So it's not that. And then 6 out of 1,000, it's not that. So if we take 3/5 and then we compare that to 100 times 20 times 20, 5 times 20 is 100, 3 times 20 is 60. So that fraction does check out. So Chanda babysat for the Tylers for $3 or 3.5 hours. They gave her $26.25. How much money did she make per hour? So they gave her a total of $26. So that's our total. And it's asking for the number of per hours. So in order to take the total and separate it equally into hours, we need to divide the total by the number of hours to give you per hour. So we have a dividing fraction question here, or a dividing decimal. So we got 26.25 divided by 33.5 or 35. So we're going to move this over to make a whole number. 1, 1. So we're going to move it. Now we got a whole number. So we can actually take that part away, make it a whole number, and then we just move it up into our answers. So 35 divides into 2 0 times. 35 divides into 26 0 times. And so we need to look at how many times does 35 divide into 262. Well, if we cover up 35 and 2, and then we just focus on the first couple digits here, 3 divides into 26 at least 8 times, about 8 times. So, but looking up above, we have 2 answers that start with 7, so let's do 7. So 35 times 7, and let's see how much we get. So we're just estimating here. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 3 is 21 plus 3. All right, so 245. So that would be correct. If we divided by, or we multiplied by 8, that would have been too much. So 7 times 35 is 245. And we subtract. And it looks like it's not going to be C or D. And then make sure the decimal is in the correct place value. And we already see it's 5. So 5 times 35 is 175. So Chase's pet lizard is 1.55 feet long. Which fraction has the same value? So 1 as a whole number, 1 as a whole number in a decimal is 1 as a whole number in a fraction. That doesn't change. So we put the decimal value over the place value. So it's 55, and then there's 2 place values over 100, 55 hundredths. So we know we have one whole number. So it's not going to be A, and then we have 55 over 100 and not over 10. So we're missing a 0 here, so it's not C. So now divide by 5. We're going to simplify. So the 1 doesn't change. 55 divided by 5 is 11, and 100 divided by 5 is going to be 20. Okay, the last problem for the homework for week 3, we have 8.4 and 2 1/4 times as y. So since we have a griddable answer here, we aren't going to be using decimals and decimals. So we need to do some mental math here. 1/4 is equal to 25 cents, and there's 2.25. So let's do a mental conversion. 2.25 times, we don't have to line up our decimals here, times 8.4. So we got 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So we're done multiplying the 4, so we're going to cross that out. 8 times 5 is 40. I'm going to carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 4 is 20. And 8 times 2 is 16 plus 2 is 18. 0, 0, 9, 8, 1. Count your decimal place values. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Since it's a griddable, we're only going to use 2 decimal place values, so we don't need that third decimal place value. Then just go ahead and bubble it in. Make sure you click Turn In up in the top right, and make sure we are showing work for all the problems on the homework.